Politics again, and the US is playing a game of geopolitical whack-a-mole. Every time they try to hammer down Russia's economy, Iran pops up and shuts the gates at Hormuz. To keep the lights on at home, Washington is being forced to buy the very Russian energy they swore to ban. The joke is dead, and the Iran-Russian alliance is the one holding the rope. Mustafa, welcome to another political show.
Welcome. So I don't think the U.S. has gotten the memo that given the way Iran and China and Russia work together, you can't strangle Russia of the energy supply or bring down their economy. You can try your best to do Iran, and most likely you can't. And you can't do it to China because you're fighting all three of them. And when you attack one, like you said, whack-a-mole, when you attack one of them, it pops up in the other hole because you're helping them. And we're seeing that now with the strategic defeat of America in this war that's helping Russia. Russia sales and oil and gas sales went up by almost 100% this month, up to 94%. They're making U.S. has had to look the other way and basically de facto take the sanctions off of them because of the blockage in Hormuz. So basically, the war in Iran is causing the market prices of oil to go too much. And the only way to avoid the catastrophe is for the US and the West to allow countries and also even to America for them to buy from India to keep their war against Iran going and basically to keep their economies going. So it's very funny that their war against Iran has now made Russia make money hand over fist more than all other OPEC nations. But the whole strategy of the Iran war and the war with Ukraine was to destroy Russia's economy. Iran also has now made Iran the controller of that region. And if they can survive this blockade, which most likely they will, because the US doesn't have the resources to keep it going, and also because Iran has asymmetrical warfare with drones, missiles, and speedboats over. And meanwhile, while the oil sales in Iran are lower than usual, like I said, oil and gas sales are fantastic in Russia. And this is a golden economic age for Russia. And there's not much that America can do. And they started off with Russia. The idea was to start in China, but it's not working. So once again, take your choice. Now, if they focus on Russia again, then they can't focus on Russia and the Hormuz again, and oil will come out from Hormuz. So what it means is that BRICS now has a system of routing natural gas and oil that you can't contain them, even if you attack one of them. The other one in concert will. Last thing I'll say, the Russia is getting its oil bought in rubles. So all of this money that you're seeing, 430 million euro every day, it's coming in rubles. Sales also, which are in yen and in gold. So what you're seeing is the inevitable de-dollarization of the world and the rise of the ruble and the yen, and eventually of Iran's money. Iran has $312 trillion worth of natural resources, not to mention that there's a shift in the economic system where even though all these countries have different monetary, different denominations of money, there will be a BRICS payment system in which they interchange. So basically, this is the rise of the global South, and things are looking very precarious for the West, especially Europe. U.S. can survive a shift to multipolarism, but I'm not sure if you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, what was meant to be a long-term squeeze on Russia has basically flipped the other way around. I mean, instead of this weakening Russia, Russia is benefiting from the instability, especially the tensions around the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, it's becoming clear that trying to cripple Russia through all these oil caps and isolation isn't holding up under real-world pressure. I mean, the pressure on the economics of the world and global crude oil prices is the one that's dictating everything. And when you think that you are pushing back on one side, the other side seems to be benefiting. I mean, the conflict around Iran has unintentionally, though, boosted Russia's earnings. You know, the enforcement of the sanctions have been softened to avoid a global energy shock. And this is to Russia's advantage. I mean, Russia's oil revenue jumped sharply in mid-March, also doubling month to month. So the G7 price cap that was given has lost its bite. Basically, it's not affecting Russia. If for anything, Russia is experiencing one of the best period in the oil boom, basically. So, and this is affecting all the, the competition with the Western systems, basically. So China has become a major buyer, and it now accounts for a large share of Russian oil revenue. Yeah,
46%.
yeah, and imports increased rapidly within just a few weeks. So all these things that they are doing, trying to do so much to so many people at the same time, is backfiring on the US and the West, basically. You can't control Russian oil ships, because basically you can't stop their production. A large portion of Russian oil is now moved by so-called, there's something they call shadow fleets. Older or
Hmm.
already sanctioned tankers can operate outside the Western oversight. These ships are largely immune to sanction pressure. So basically, there's very little the US can walk around that the US can do. And then
Not
you
only
look at the
that,
financial systems as well. Yeah, I mean, the dominance of the SWIFT systems, the Western financial systems, is being reduced as alternatives are being worked out and being created along the BRICS bloc. So as everything is becoming multipolar basically, and the US and Western hegemony looks to be, slowly melting down.
yeah, yeah, and once again, and you said that they have shadow fleets so that the U.S. can't police it. Also, the U.S. attack them because if they do, that Russian oil needs to. In other words, America wants this Russian oil to be in the market to bring down the prices, so that in America, where we're paying $4 and we're suffering very badly with $4. If Russia didn't step up, we might be paying.
Yeah, so the US is indirectly hurting itself. They're
They
indirectly
don't want to. They don't want to
hurting
look like
themselves.
hypocrites to their people. So they say, "Oh yeah, we've banned Russian oil," but in reality, they may be even involved in the shadow ships. You get my point. They've
I
lost,
understand.
and the biggest thing now is that the SWIFT system is being bypassed, and by the end of this year, it'll be totally bypassed, which means that American hegemony is over. And then the only policy I've always said, America doesn't need to be a hegemon because it's a big country that's energy sufficient. But the problem in America is that people want to have $1.6 million houses. They want to have two Lexuses. They want
Yes,
to
it's
have
greed. The problem is
it's greed.
greed.
So their cost of living is too high there. So they're going to have to change their economy because they could do all of that before because they were controlling.
Yeah, because they have to continue to fund APAC.
Yeah. And not only that, and then fund their greed. And here's the thing with 312 trillion dollars of resources in Iran, if the US could put a government in there which is corrupt like Nigeria's government, they'd be controlling those resources. And same thing with Russia. The Ukraine war was supposed to try to lead to a revolution in Russia so they could throw Putin out and they could control Russian natural gas and oil. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And I'll end with this. Europe, you're in big trouble. Europe is not energy independent. Putin's still waiting for you. He's strategic. He's not an emotional person. When you're ready to come back to Father Putin, when you're ready to come back to him, he will give you cheap oil and gas. But you have to denounce your anti-Russophobic bullshit rhetoric. He'll take you
Yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's just is a very weak and ineffective strategy. I mean, they are strategically overstretched. The US can't maintain pressure on Russia while also managing a high risk war with Iran. To
No, you
deal
can't do
with Iran, global markets need stability. To keep markets
that.
stable, Russian oil still has to flow. So that's why enforcement has to be uneven at times. And sometimes it's now right now it's playing into the hands of Russia because their revenues are soaring, basically.
Falabi, you know what Russia is? Remember when Joseph's brother were jealous of him and they kicked him out? Same thing.
Yeah.
Putin wanted to join NATO. They kicked him out.
And then he went to Egypt and became a prince.
Everybody had to come to him for wheat. Now everybody
Yes.
has to come to Putin for oil.
Yes,
It's the
everybody has to
same.
come to Russia for oil.
Yeah, so it's game over. And last thing I'll say, Russia's building its navy because the U.S. still has a naval advantage over other countries, but Russia's navy is expanding. The U.S.'s navy is going into its decline.